I never thought a quiet choice could place my life on the edge of darkness, but that was the day everything inside me began to change. As you read, stay with me to the end, because what began behind golden walls became a journey through fear, pain, and hidden hope. Before we continue, please comment where you are watching or reading from. Let us connect as one family, support each other, and continue to pray for one another wherever we are in the world. I was 16 years old in the year 2018, when my life still looked like a dream to many people. My name was Aliyah Noor, and I lived inside a palace surrounded by high walls, armed guards, and endless silence. From the outside, people believed I had everything. Inside, I lived under strict rules that watched my steps, my thoughts, and even my breathing. Every morning, I woke before the sun. Servants guided my routine, reminding me of what was expected. They showed me how to dress, how to walk, and how to lower my eyes. Tutors came daily. They taught me history, language, and religious laws. They reminded me that obedience was safety and silence was wisdom. The palace was large, but my world was small. Long halls echoed with my footsteps, yet I was never truly alone. Guards stood near doors. Women assigned to watch me followed from room to room. Even when I sat near the window, someone stood behind me, watching what I looked at and how long I stayed there. I learned early that questions were dangerous. When curiosity rose in my heart, fear quickly pushed it down. People around me warned me through actions, not words. I saw how others disappeared from service. I noticed how names stopped being mentioned. Silence taught lessons better than punishment. Faith was part of everything. I was taught what to read, when to bow, and how to recite. Teachers explained that this was the only path, the only truth, and the only way to live. They revealed to me that doubt was weakness and that outside ideas were poison. Yet, even as a child, I felt something missing. I could not name it, but I felt empty during moments when I was told I should feel full. During prayers, my lips moved, but my heart felt far away. At night, when the palace rested, I lay awake listening to the wind and wondering why peace felt so distant. Punishment was never loud at first. It began quietly. A raised eyebrow, a look of warning, a restriction from food or movement. I once saw a young maid punished because she lingered too long near my room. Her face showed fear, and afterward, she never met my eyes again. That moment taught me how fragile life was within these walls. As I grew older, the pressure grew heavier. Expectations tightened around me like invisible chains. I was reminded daily that my actions represented honor, bloodline, and law. Mistakes were not personal. They were crimes against tradition. There were days when I wished to scream, but my voice stayed locked inside me. I smiled when told. I nodded when instructed. I became very good at hiding thoughts. Survival depended on it. One afternoon, while walking through a rarely used wing of the palace, I noticed a storage room left unlocked. This was unusual. Curiosity pulled me closer before fear could stop me. Inside were old books covered in dust. Most were records and forgotten texts. As I reached out, my hands shook, knowing I should not touch anything without permission. That room became my quiet place. I returned when no one followed. I did not know then that this small act would begin a chain of suffering I could never undo. At this stage of my life, I still believed obedience would protect me. I still thought silence would save me. I did not yet understand how quickly love could turn into judgment, or how harsh punishment could become when belief changed. The palace that raised me would soon become the place that broke me, and this was only the beginning. One small step into a quiet room pushed me into a storm of pain I never knew could exist, and from that moment, fear learned my name. I remember the day clearly, not because of words spoken, but because of how my body felt. My hands were cold, my heart beat fast. The air around me felt heavy, like it knew something bad was coming. I was still living inside comfort, but danger had already noticed me. The storage room became my hiding place. Dust covered the floor. Old shelves leaned like tired elders. I went there when guards changed shifts and watchers grew lazy. I moved slowly, listening for footsteps. Silence became my friend and my enemy. Among the books, I found one that felt different. It was wrapped in old cloth. Its pages were soft and worn, as if many hands had touched it in secret. I did not know much about it at first. I only knew my heart felt calm when I opened it. As I read, I felt kindness, forgiveness, and love filling places inside me that had always been empty. No one taught me this book. No teacher approved it. No guardian allowed it. I learned alone, in fear, hiding it under my clothes and returning it before anyone noticed. Each time I read, I felt peace and danger together. Soon my behavior changed. People noticed. I became quieter. I spent more time alone. I no longer reacted quickly during lessons. My tutors showed concern through stern looks. Servants watched me more closely. They sensed something had shifted, even if they did not know what. One afternoon, a woman assigned to watch me followed me longer than usual. She did not speak, but her eyes stayed sharp. When I entered the storage room, she stood at the door. She later revealed my actions through her silence and sudden absence. I did not see her again after that day. The next morning, I was taken to a different room. It was smaller. No windows. Cold floor. Men stood at a distance. Their faces showed judgment without words. They showed me the book placed on a table like evidence. My chest tightened. My legs felt weak. They did not shout. They did not need to. Their calm made everything worse. They showed me through actions that I had crossed a line that could not be erased. They revealed to me that curiosity had become rebellion. My name was now linked with shame. From that day, punishment began. My freedom disappeared. Guards followed me everywhere. Food became limited. Sleep became short. I was forced to stand for long hours. My body ached, but my heart hurt more. People I once trusted avoided my eyes. Some showed fear, others disgust. I was isolated. Silence became loud. Days felt longer than years. When lessons continued, they were harsher. Mistakes were corrected with pain. They showed me that obedience was no longer enough. They wanted fear to live inside me. At night, I cried quietly. I pressed my face into my hands so no one would hear. My tears soaked into the floor. I felt alone, confused, and scared. I wondered how love could bring so much suffering. Threats followed. I was shown examples of what happens to those who choose wrongly. I was taken past rooms where punishment had occurred. I saw stains that told stories without words. They wanted my fear to grow roots. Yet even in pain, something inside me stayed strong. The words I read before stayed alive in my heart. They reminded me of mercy when cruelty surrounded me. They reminded me of hope when everything else tried to crush it. This chapter of my life taught me the cost of a single decision. I learned that belief can turn people into enemies. I learned that choosing peace can invite pain. And I learned that persecution does not always begin with chains. Sometimes it begins with a book and a quiet choice. What I did not know then was that this suffering was only preparing me for something far worse, and something far greater. I thought the worst pain had already found me, but that morning taught me that suffering can always grow deeper. The day my secret became public did not begin with noise. It began with silence. The kind of silence that presses on the chest and makes breathing hard. I was taken from my room before sunrise. The hallway lights were dim. The palace felt colder than usual, like it had turned its back on me. They led me through paths I had never walked before. The walls were plain. No beauty. No comfort. My steps echoed, and each sound reminded me that I was no longer protected. Guards walked beside me, not looking at my face. Their hands stayed close to their weapons, showing me that I was now considered dangerous. I was placed in a large room with high ceilings. Important people sat far away, raised above me. Their distance made me feel small. I was told to stand alone in the center. No chair, no water, no support. I understood then that this was not a conversation. It was judgment. They revealed my actions without kindness. They showed how my reading had been watched, reported, and written down. They explained that my choice was not seen as curiosity, but as betrayal. My heart pounded as I realized how carefully my life had been studied. I was made to wait for hours. My legs shook. Sweat ran down my back. No one asked how I felt. No one cared if I was afraid. They wanted me weak. They wanted me to break. Punishment increased after that day. I was moved to a guarded room with no decoration. Light entered only through a small opening. Meals were rare and small. Sometimes food was delayed on purpose. Hunger became a tool to remind me of my place. Interrogations followed. They happened at different times, so I never knew when to rest. I was surrounded by faces that showed no mercy. They revealed consequences through gestures and examples. They showed me scars on others. They led me past places where people had cried and begged before disappearing. Sleep was taken from me. Lights stayed on at night. Sounds were made to keep me awake. When my body grew tired, my thoughts grew weak. They wanted confusion. They wanted surrender. I was blamed for dishonor. I was told through actions that my existence now caused shame. People who once greeted me with respect turned away. Some whispered as I passed. Others stared with anger. I felt erased while still alive. My body suffered, but my heart suffered more. I missed simple things like sunlight on my face and quiet moments without fear. I missed feeling human. Every day felt like a test I was meant to fail. I was informed of my fate through formal steps and cold procedures. I understood that my life had been measured and found unworthy. Execution was no longer a rumor. It became a scheduled event, treated like duty instead of tragedy. Fear wrapped around me like chains. I imagined pain. I imagined darkness. I imagined being forgotten. My tears came often, but I learned to cry silently. Loud pain only brought more punishment. Yet, in the deepest moments of despair, I remembered the kindness I had read about. I remembered love that did not depend on fear. I held on to that memory like a small light in a very dark room. This chapter showed me how belief can turn into cruelty when power replaces compassion. I learned how persecution strips dignity piece by piece. And I learned that when humans decide someone no longer deserves life, only a miracle can change the ending. I did not know how close that miracle was. That night, time slowed down, and every breath felt like it could be my last. When they took me back to my room, I knew something had changed. The guards moved differently. Their steps were firm and final. They avoided my eyes. They showed me through their silence that there would be no more questioning, no more delays. The room I was placed in was small and bare. The walls were rough. The floor was cold. A single light hung above me, never turning off. I sat on the ground because there was nothing else to sit on. My body was tired, weak from hunger and stress, but my mind refused to rest. I understood that this was my last night. No one needed to explain it with words. The way doors closed, the way keys turned, the way guards took turns watching me. Everything revealed the truth clearly. Fear came in waves. Sometimes it hit my chest so hard I felt I could not breathe. Other times it sat quietly, heavy and painful. I thought about my childhood. I remembered running in palace gardens when life was simple. I remembered laughter that no longer existed for me. Loneliness hurt more than the thought of death. No family member came. No friend stood by me. I felt forgotten by everyone except those assigned to end my life. That pain cut deeper than hunger or chains. I cried, not loudly, but deeply. My tears fell onto the floor, mixing with dust. I felt small, weak, and broken. I wondered why choosing kindness had led me here. I wondered why love had been treated like a crime. Guards checked on me often. Sometimes they stared, sometimes they looked away quickly. One of them showed discomfort through shaking hands. Another showed anger through hard movements. None showed mercy. I was given plain clothing. They removed anything that belonged to my past life. Jewelry, comfort, identity, all taken away. I felt stripped not just of things, but of dignity. As night grew deeper, sounds echoed through the halls. Doors opened and closed. Footsteps passed. Each sound made my heart jump. I imagined what morning would bring. I imagined pain. I imagined fear becoming reality. In that darkness, I remembered the words I had once read in secret. They reminded me of forgiveness, even for those who hurt others. They reminded me of a love stronger than death. I held on to that memory tightly. It was all I had left. I did not ask for rescue. I did not expect it. I only hoped that my suffering had meaning. I hoped my pain was seen, even if no human cared. As the night faded, exhaustion took over. I lay on the cold floor, staring at the light above me. My body shook. My heart whispered hope, even when my mind told me there was none. Morning was coming, and with it, an ending, or something no one was prepared for. Just when death stood in front of me and fear had finished its work, something greater than power, law, and weapons entered my story. Morning came too quickly. Guards arrived before the sun fully rose. They showed me through their movements that this was the final walk. My hands trembled as I stood. My legs felt weak, but they pushed me forward. Chains were placed on me, cold and heavy. Each step echoed like a countdown. I was taken outside for the first time in many days. The air felt sharp. The ground was hard beneath my feet. People stood at a distance, Some watched with curiosity, some with anger. Others avoided looking at me at all. I felt exposed, small, and completely alone. They placed me where everything was prepared. I could see the tools meant to end my life. My heart beat so loud I thought others could hear it. Fear wrapped around me tightly. My body shook, not from cold, but from terror. In that moment, I felt the full weight of persecution. I remembered the hunger, the sleepless nights, the isolation, the humiliation, and the pain. I remembered being treated as less than human because of what I chose to believe. I understood that persecution does not only hurt the body, it tries to crush the soul. As I stood there, something changed. The noise around me faded. Fear loosened its grip. I felt a deep peace enter my heart, unlike anything I had ever known. It was gentle but powerful. I felt seen. I felt protected. I became aware of a presence beside me. No one else seemed to notice. This presence did not come with anger or force. It came with love. I understood without words that I was not alone. He revealed to me that my suffering was known. He showed me that my life had value, even here. Suddenly, confusion spread among those in charge. Movements stopped. Orders were delayed. Faces changed. Some stepped back in fear. Others looked around, unsure of what was happening. The moment that was meant to end my life began to fall apart. I was removed from the place in a hurry. Chains were unlocked. Voices rose, not in anger toward me, but in confusion among themselves. What was planned could not continue. Something they could not control had interrupted everything. Later I was taken away quietly. No punishment followed. No explanation was given. I was kept hidden, protected in ways I cannot fully explain. My execution never happened. I knew then that Jesus had intervened. Not with violence, not with shouting, but with authority greater than fear and power greater than death. He saved my life. My body still carried scars. My heart still remembered pain. But my spirit was free. Persecution had tried to destroy me, but faith had carried me through. Today, I share this story for those who suffer in silence, for those beaten, rejected, imprisoned, and threatened because of their faith. Your pain is seen. Your tears matter. You are not forgotten. I encourage Christians all over the world to pray for the persecuted. Pray for strength. Pray for protection. Pray for courage to stand firm in love, even when hatred surrounds them. And for anyone reading who desires to turn away from sin and come to Christ, take this moment seriously. In your heart, speak to God. Acknowledge your need for forgiveness. Believe that Jesus gave his life and rose again to save you. Invite him to lead your life from this day forward. Ask for a new heart, a clean soul, and the strength to follow him. Faith may lead through suffering, but it also leads to life. And sometimes when the world prepares an ending, Jesus steps forward and writes a new beginning.